Correct. Very, 1368 now. 1368 now. Set. Ready. Fire.
On the Argentine positions, the artillery was falling like rain, drenching the mountains in debris and smoke. Once the Scots Guards had battled their way to the top of Tumbledown, the Gurkhas prepared to move through onto Sapper Hill, the last ridge, almost on the outskirts of Stanley itself. The helicopters, snuggling against the contours of the land, couldn't keep the ammunition coming fast enough. The final bombardment brought the guns down to their last half-dozen shells. But short of ammunition or not, the British shells kept falling remorselessly until the Argentine line broke. An Argentine cameraman showed what it looked like on the receiving end. The demoralized defenders were pulling back into the town. Officers and men were arguing. Discipline was breaking down. The British tactics were paying off. The appalling bombardment had been going on for weeks. The blockade, even partially enforced, had created a sense of isolation. The weather was turning nasty. There was nowhere else to retreat. The British were worried they might have to fight through the streets. Had the Argentines known that the British were on their last legs logistically, with the Navy almost unable to guarantee the supply line any longer, perhaps they would have fought on. Instead, suddenly it was all over. The guns fell silent.
Negotiations will commence this evening. However, you're reminded that at the moment we still remain at war.
We are still at war
Argentina.
with Argentina.
And Camp Charlie Papa will continue to be food.
And we'll still have cap.
Precautions against anything happening.
Normal anti-air precautions.
Argentina should be continued.
8-2, Roger, out. Negotiations will start tonight. Although there appears to be a ceasefire at the moment and the Argentinian forces in the Falklands have appeared to have surrendered, this does not necessarily mean that the forces in the mainland Argentine will necessarily stop fighting. Therefore, we will have normal cap, that is air cover, combat air patrols, and we should take the normal precautions against being caught by surprise or whatever. There is a white flag flying over Stanley. Very marvellous. Joe Howard-Jasley, Marty Janser, cosine Foco, objective ma, Juan Guerra.
Now their major had to explain to some rather disappointed Gurkhas that their chance for fighting and regimental glory was over. The troops began the dangerous march into Stanley, weaving their way through the minefields which surrounded it. They followed carefully in the tracks of the engineers, the men who'd led every assault, showing the advanced troops the way through the minefields under fire. So helter-skelter had been the final move forward that his troops were almost at Moody Brook, the Royal Marine Barracks on the outskirts of Port Stanley, before Brigadier Thompson of the Commander Brigade caught up with them.
I didn't think it would happen quite as fast as this. I expected this to be happening tomorrow and not today. But I'm delighted that it's happened today.
The real enemy defeated, there was time for some regimental rivalry.
Why, where'd you put it
done?
They're on the race course.
Hey, who got up the Italian flag up on here, Dave?
Who was the first to put up the flag?
Para.
I put it up again. Para the first in again? That's right.
Yes,
again.
Para was first in.
How much did you beat the others?
2.5 hours.
So how long have you been here now?
Since about 3 o'clock. 2 after 2, 3 o'clock.
What sort of opposition was there?
Running opposition.
Running.
They ran away.
So you just came straight in?
That's right.
And told to stop?
That's right.
How did
We
you-
went into the town, put up the 2 Para flags, the Union Jack, and then was dragged back out by the Marines.
Not feeling too good about that. What do you expect?
Argentine officers were allowed to keep sidearms to emphasize their authority, perhaps even to ensure their safety against their men. The surrender was unconditional in everything but name, because when the agreement was drawn up, General Menendez would not have the word unconditional in the final document. The uncertainties in Buenos Aires were having their effect on the Falklands. The prisoners, more than 6,000 in Stanley, several thousands more around the islands, had nowhere to live, little food to eat. The British wanted to ship them home, but until someone was willing to accept defeat and guarantee a safe conduct, they had to stay on the islands. The prisoners were taken out to the squalor of the airfield and left amid the mud and debris to fend for themselves. Suddenly, the danger of men dying needlessly through exposure seemed very real. It was several days before Argentina was stable enough to strike a deal to bring them home. Despite the vigor and the confidence of the British troops, it was a close-run victory. The length of the supply line and the need to defend it strained the Navy greatly. It could have gone the other way. At the end, it was a case of whose nerve broke first. General Moore kept his and kept to himself any doubts about winning until the battle was over.
One has one's moments of doubt, and I would have thought that all human beings have their moments of doubt. One has to have the strength of character to overcome these moments of doubt. What I did not ever doubt was the quality of the man, and that happily I was right about.
When you found it was over, that you'd won, you obviously had a lot still to do. What was your mood?
I think my mood was elation above everything else, that the whole thing was over, that we'd done the job we'd come here to do, that the sacrifices that had been made by a lot of young men, and as you know, in those final 3 days we had 173 casualties, had all been worthwhile, because the freedom of the Falkland Islanders to live the life they wanted, under the government they wanted, was restored, and that's what we come for. So it was a great sense of elation in that sense.
Hello everyone and welcome to Guerra Military Collectibles. So today's video we're covering this item, and this is the Winter Parka from the British Army. Now I tried to find a bit of research when these came into issue and when they were coming out of issue. They seem to have came on issue just prior to the Falklands War in 1982, and they went all the way up until the Soldier 95 change around. And you do still, after prior Soldier 95, you do still see guys wearing the private purchase ones, or ones that they got from fellow soldiers that never turned them in when they left the military. They're also commonly referred to as the Falklands Parka because you see them extensively used in the Falklands. I suppose the famous one where you think of this item being rare, there is a clip from the Falklands when they received the surrender from Stanley, and the guy that actually sticks his thumbs up and says the war is over was wearing this type of jacket. Excuse me. So we'll start at the top and we'll work down. So the top is what's known, or the hood is what's known as an Arctic hood. It's big enough with this wire loop on it. This has a wire loop in it, and it's designed to be worn over a helmet, be it a combat helmet, climate helmet, something like that. That's the idea of these hoods. There is a draw cord here at the back that you can cinch it down to make it tighter fit to you, and there's a draw cord here at the front that you can cinch the actual loop as well down. The idea of the wire is to stop the wind from blowing it off your head. So that's the actual hood. We move down along onto the shoulders. There's epaulets on both sides for rank and stuff like that. There is no field dressing or biro pocket or anything like that on either sleeve. There's two chest and 2 thigh pockets. Now this parka is worn nearly at knee length. This one is slightly too big for me, but it's nearly worn at knee length. And the idea of that was it could be worn as a layer system over other clothes. It did come with a liner. This one does have the liner, and I will show you shortly. One thing I forgot about the hood is actually quilted. There's actually a liner on the inside of the hood. It's a very, very warm design for jacket. When you see them being used, they're normally worn by guys in laying up positions or in rear areas and stuff like that, when they weren't too worried about the coming into engagement, because when you come into an engagement your body starts naturally sweat already from heat exhaustion. So when they weren't exerting themselves, they would wear these, and it'd be that in trenches or foxholes or anything like that. Get back to the pockets. So there's 2 chest pockets, there's 2 thigh pockets. Now these ones seems to have been altered. On some of them you will find that this bottom pocket is an elasticated one that it will cinch up. They're the 2 bottom ones are bellows pockets on this, and the 2 top ones have been stitched flat pockets. Big buttons. The idea behind the big buttons was so that you could use them with gloves. The whole design of this is to be worn in a cold situation. You'll see 2 buttons here at the bottom as well. I don't know if the camera will pick them up, but there's actually 2 buttons here on the external of the jacket, and they're for what's known as the beaver tail. So there's like a little piece of material on the inside that you can put it between your legs and button it there as well, so that it doesn't fall off or ride off you and stuff like that. So that's pretty much it. I get to the cuffs here. I can use the ones, as I said, this side is pretty much a mirror image. The other side, there's no difference whatsoever. The cuffs have this tape. Now this is a dark green tape. The earlier ones seem to have had more a brown tan type tape. So I believe this is post Falklands. Unfortunately the dates that on both the liner and on the inside are both washed out. But as I said, the pattern didn't change at all. And then again, this is also worn or used with gloves that you can just grab it and Velcro it closed to whatever you need. Now I'll just show you the liner on the inside. So the zip on the inside is nearly a full length zip. There's a zip at the bottom that you can open it from the bottom, and there's a zip you can open it from the top. It's a double zip. And then on the liner you have this quilted liner on the inside, which also fastens to whatever you want with these little Velcro loops as well. As I said, I'm lucky that I actually have the liner that it's the same size and the same manufacturer as the jacket. Just open it here. The manufacturer is you can just barely make out Bernard Uniforms Limited. So that is the Winter Parka, or also commonly referred to as the Falklands Parka. So if you like what we provide here at Guerra Military Collectibles, please subscribe, and please tune in for the next video. If you want to get in contact with the channel, as always, the email will be at the top of the video description. Thank you.